Hey, everybody, and welcome to Church at Home with Rachel for Wednesday, the 26th of June, I think. Glad to have you here. Well, I have overcome the heartbreak of Monday night. The Edmonton Oilers did not win the Stanley Cup for the first time a Canadian team in 31 years on my birthday, but they came darn close, and I'm really happy about that. For those of you who know, you may know I'm a huge hockey fan. I've liked the Oilers since I was like 12 years old, and they were winning cups left and right when Wayne Gretzky was there and when he wasn't. But then I also my biggest team is the Montreal Canadiens. But um, being back in the West revisited my love for Edmonton, and so it was with great delight that I saw them make it through the playoffs and down 3 games to nothing at the beginning of the Stanley Cup final and come back to be beaten only 2-1. I mean, you can't ask for better than that other than the cup itself. But I have to say, I was really disappointed in the response of the Florida Panthers fans on Monday evening when Connor McDavid was awarded the Conn Smythe trophy. The Conn Smythe goes to the most valuable player of the whole Stanley Cup playoffs. So I think always, it's gone to a player who made it to the finals because it's difficult to be the most valuable player for the playoffs if you don't actually make it through the playoffs. But it doesn't often go to a player who isn't on the winning team. And I understand that many people would have wanted their goalie, the Florida goalie, to be the MVP of the playoffs, except he pitched a few stinkers. There were a couple games that were pretty bloody awful for him. He wasn't the most valuable player. He may have been for the Panthers, but overall, across the spectrum of all of the games that were played in 66 days, he wasn't the best of them. But Connor McDavid was. Everybody knew it, and it was disturbing to hear the people booing Connor and chanting Bobrovsky's name when Connor was called to come out and receive the Conn Smythe trophy. That's not how it's supposed to work. In hockey, as people keep referring to it, a Canadian game, we don't act like that as spectators. If a player is injured, regardless of which team they're on, when they get up onto their feet or when they're put on a stretcher, we cheer, we clap in support of someone who's hurt, being either feeling a bit well enough that he can be mobile again, or that someone's going to help him. He's getting some help. We don't cheer because they got hurt. Although, there's a bit of backing and forthing during a fight or something. But when somebody goes down, there's often dead silence in a rink. And they wait quietly until such time. And they don't play music. The dun 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 or Metallica or AC/DC or the Cotton Eye Joe, things like that. They just don't play those when a player is down on the ice. There's a sort of a there's a sportsmanship expected of the spectators, a spectatorship, a sense of what it is to be a spectator at a game. And and I would like to think that if that game had happened in if that had happened in Edmonton and the Panthers had won there, or had not, if Edmonton had won and the Panthers had been named the Conn Smythe when somebody from the Panthers had been won the Conn Smythe winner, my imagine my educated guess would be that the Canadian fans, the Edmonton Oilers fans, would cheer for him. Good for you. You did a great job. We all acknowledge that. But Connor McDavid did not get such a response. He stood on the ice until the last of his players went down the tunnel. He greeted each and every one of the players in his team, for which he's the captain, with an incredible amount of integrity and sportsmanship. And then he received the Conn Smythe, and he will always know that he was the recipient of that because he came this close to breaking Wayne Gretzky's record for points earned during the Stanley Cup playoffs. And that's amazing because he's playing for a team that doesn't always do that well. And yet they took it to a game 7, right down to the final seconds. Amazing. But it's what speaks most isn't about the Edmontons coming back. What speaks most to me is about how we treat people. How do we respond to one another? In our world, we have gotten nasty. We have gotten downright awful with one another. If we don't like our political adversaries, if we don't like the person who's running against the person that we support, we don't just vote for our person or put their sign on the lawn. We now have people who will go so far as to vilify that other person. People will steal lawn signs that are advertising somebody they don't like. People have been known to vandalize houses where somebody's sign shows like the NDP or the Liberal or the PCs or the Conservatives if they don't like that person. People are getting into fistfights and people aren't speaking to each other because of it. We live in a society where we have learned how to be cordial. And it really disturbed me on Monday evening to see how the people responded. After the game was over, I was so excited waiting for that Edmonton to try to tie the game up at 2-2 and put it in overtime that I really had to go to the bathroom. And so as soon as the game was over, I ran to the bathroom and I was trying to get out for the presentation of the Conn Smythe trophy. And I heard them announce Connor McDavid's name and I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I couldn't see the TV yet, but I couldn't believe what I was hearing. All those thousands of fans disrespecting a player who went out there and played his best and played with integrity and dignity and didn't play dirty. Instead of honoring someone for how they did, they disrespected him by yelling someone else's name who they thought should have won. That's not the way hockey used to be. That's not the way that our sport has been before. Now, over the last few years, it's becoming more and more like that. But the point being that we can't be living in a world where this is the way things happen. Because I kind of think of sports as like the canary in the coal mine. So as goes sports, as goes the conversation around sports, as goes the pundits, all the things on TV talking about sports, so goes the world. Well, it used to be that sporting events meant you could have tailgate parties with both sides, like both teams, hanging out in the same parking lot. And they'd share their beer, or their hot dogs, or their hibachi that they were cooking their hot dogs on. And everybody would just have a grand old time. And now I think we worry more about, will fistfights ensue? Are people going to trample other people when something happens? Or are we going to watch a hockey game in which those people who have just cheering for the team that lost, they've come all the way down from Canada to watch this game, and rather than be able to turn to the people beside them and say, hey, good on you, you won fair and square, the people on them are chanting boo because one of the visiting team, the losing team's members, is being honored for something they actually earned. I'm worried about where we're going as a society. We need to work together. We need to be able to say, I can hold a strong opinion. I can absolutely believe that my team or my party in politics or my opinion over here about this idea about immigration or homelessness or healthcare or taxes is mine, and I can have my reasons for feeling this way, but so can you, and we can agree to disagree. We can have a good rip-roaring, snorting, stomp on our feet, yelling at each other over a cup of coffee that the other person is just out to lunch. But when we're finished our coffee and the conversation, we can still shake hands and say, well, I see you at the baseball game tomorrow. Are you coming down to play pool? Are you still coming over for my child's birthday party? That's the way it should be. And I don't think I'm Pollyanna. I don't think I'm thinking back to the 1950s and things haven't been that way forever. It wasn't very long ago when we could be peaceable with one another. It wasn't very long ago that people would cheer when an injured player got up off the ice. It wasn't very long ago when even the team who won, even the crowd who won, but didn't win the Conn Smythe, would still cheer for that incredible player who did such a great job. We need to get back to a place in our world where sportsmanship and sportsmanlike behavior is the watchword of the day. In hockey, they have a penalty for unsportsmanlike behavior. Maybe we need a penalty for spectators who exhibit unsportsmanlike behavior. What might it be like if we stopped hating on each other, stopped being so wed to that particular belief we have, that opinion we hold, and recognize that if ours is that important to us, then somebody else's is that important to them as well, and that's okay. So as you go out your day, I hoist one to Connor McDavid, who won the Conn Smythe not because he scored the most goals, but more because he got the most points, which means in Connor McDavid's part, like Wayne Gretzky, 9 times out of 10, he was probably setting up an assist. He worked as a teammate. He worked as a member of the team. And because he did so, his team scored goals. His team scored goals. And that's what we need to focus on, is the teamwork. Together, let's make a decision today that wherever we go, whatever we do, whatever conversations we have, relationships we share throughout our day, let's exhibit good sportsmanlike behavior. Let's be members of a team rather than jackasses who are so infused in our own thing that we treat each other and others like their opinion doesn't count. Let's play a sportsmanlike game today, everybody, and see what our day might look like if we all did that together. Have a great day. God bless, and I'll see you again tomorrow for Church at Home with Rachel.